You're talking about the combination of street smarts and book smart, and actually that it is more valuable than just book smarts by itself or just street smarts by itself. When you combine the two, what happens?
You create a maturity level that understands both everything around it, the sophisticated level of business and the unsophisticated level of business. You understand both markets where can come together into a shining star, because you know how to work the system, you know what you can get away with, and you know what you can provide. Having that knowledge on both sides, it's a win-win, because you're understanding that everybody has needs. Everybody, there's a market for everybody. You just have to find that niche to it. And that's the more important part of the side hustle, the street hustle, is that the street hustle is going to say how it is. It's going to be raw. Book smart, the theory behind it is this black and white.
Right.
When you mesh those two, man, it's like you opening a path or a bottle, like, wow, it's going to surprise you. Because again, the background that you can develop from it, the education that you're learning and how you're adapting to that, the street smarts is what allowing you to adapt. It's not the books, it's not the research, it's not that, it's what you experience hands-on.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Same Business, Different Day podcast. I'm your host, Zeke Corley, here at the Film Hub in Vista, California. So many paths that a business person can take to find their success. Education, a brilliant idea or an invention. Some get recruited into a great position and climb their way up. Even a good internship that turns into a job. Today, we are happy that he found the time to finally get here to tell his story. The one and only Gumaro Escarcega.
Wow.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for the intro, man.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate you, man. And it's a celebration, so let's just start it off with
That's
cheers,
a cheers,
man.
brother. Cheers,
yeah,
definitely.
Cheers to your success and everything in the future. So the way that we do the show, we talk about, we start from the beginning. We like to talk about how it all started, how you grew up, things that you were thinking about being when you were growing up, right? And then we'll eventually get into what it is that you do now, and we kind of put all that together. So where are you from originally?
I'm from Central Coast, California, a small town called Greenfield, California.
Greenville or Greenfield?
Greenfield, California.
Wow, I don't even know that.
In the middle of the Salad Bowl of California, which is Salinas Valley, Monterey County.
Okay.
It's to be more claim to fame, right?
Beautiful out there. I know
gorgeous. Love the outdoors. It's a great place to be. It's a small town. Very migrant driven. We started very humble. My family I'm first generation Mexican American.
Okay.
I was the first person that went to college. The college route.
Siblings?
I have 8 siblings.
Okay.
With my mom. My dad had, that I know of, 4 other siblings out there that I have met. 3, I haven't met the 4th one.
Okay.
That passed away a few years back. So definitely things to dig into the family tree there from his side of things. But no, I started for really humble beginnings. Hardworking family. It's the traditional migrant household, right, where you have your uncle staying with you, your grandma, staying with you.
Yeah.
8 siblings.
Yeah.
In a 3-bedroom.
So they were all staying in a 3-bedroom.
The majority of them were staying with us.
Okay.
Yeah. My brothers, obviously, young age, had young kids, so he grew up a little. My oldest brother.
So where were you, about in the middle?
I'm in the 3rd youngest. I'm the 7. I'm lucky number 7.
Okay.
That's the way I like to say, lucky number 7.
Yeah.
And the idea that, we grew up working in the fields. My mom grew up in the fields. She worked in agriculture, in her young life. My dad was, also worked very hard, but he's also had a side hustle. The side hustle really got him to work logistics and go across the state and across the country.
Okay.
And so, my dad taught me a lot of that hustle, the entrepreneur way, I think, of doing things. My mom was also part of that. We grew up, helping mom, helping, my father and my mom actually come from a broken home, too. And, my mom, my dad, left my mom when I was probably like 8 years old, actually younger than that. Probably about 7 or 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I had a stepfather in my life. But what growing up is the community that I saw that raised me. Basically, I was always in the streets.
By community, you mean neighborhood?
The neighborhood. I lived. It's funny fact is that I live doorsteps from the downtown.
Okay.
And thinking about, I lived behind a Chevron station.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I really grew up. My youth, and then from 4 years old to like 10 years old, I was just there, and so what I was doing as a kid is going to these business shops, and got to, the arcades with my local arcade, which is still there. Actually, the owners are a great friend of ours, just like family to me.
Oh, you still have family back there?
Oh yeah, man. I still have a lot of family back then. I am the godfather of my best friend that owns that business.
Okay.
So we're very connected in that community still.
Wow.
We're working on creating an alumni association actually for the high school there. So I'm a Bruin there, Bruin for life, I guess you can say, right? So,
yeah.
But I'm working with a group of alumni that went to that school and trying to grow the youth and spirit there and bring the entrepreneurship and the mentorship that's needed. When I went to my friend's business, I was the errand boy as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So when everybody needed a favor, I was actually going out there, getting them what they need, a coffee.
Mm-hmm.
The business needed produce, I go get the produce.
Yeah.
And that's how I got paid.
But you know what I bet you were doing too with doing that? You were probably building relationships with those other businesses. Like they
100%.
knew you. They saw you.
100%.
Yeah.
To the point that I go home, and by the way, my nickname back home is Conejo, which is rapid.
Okay.
And my baseball coach at the time named me Conejo before I played baseball. And then he gave my second nickname, which still is stuck right now. It's Gumby. So I got two nicknames. So I go home, they neither know me by Conejo or they know me by Gumby.
Okay.
Here in Oceanside and Vista, a lot of people know me as G or Gumaro, right? Mm-hmm. Quite a bit of people know me as Gumby because I have created that relationship with them. Mm-hmm. But the mentorship around that city is molding me. Mm-hmm. and really helped me, kind of put a good, head on my shoulder to keep working hard. As a kid, you play sports, you always want to be a pro athlete, right?
Yeah,
that's mindset.
Yeah. Obviously, you see a lot of that.
That's never gonna happen.
We get that answer a lot. We ask people what they wanted to be when they grew up. Just like, I didn't grow tall enough. I didn't,
I wasn't exactly. Man, but sports was always in my life. And I was a kid. First sport I played was baseball. And then I went to basically all through my youth. And then in high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. I played baseball and a football player and I wrestled for a period of time, following my brother's footsteps.
The way you pronounce football, though, I got to ask you what you said. Were you talking about American football or are you talking about soccer?
American football. No, American football.
Okay.
Soccer, I had bad experiences with soccer, man, as a kid, man. Okay. I just never touched that. I love the game. I love the sport. I love the fan base. I'm not into fandom. The fan base is what drives me.
Okay.
Visiting other parks, visiting other places like the historic places like Wrigley Field, the Green Monster. Those gives you the ability to learn the game a little bit more. But the history behind this is such an amazing, experience. And so that's what me and my wife have done now is we're trying to visit every ballpark in the United States, right?
Awesome.
And now that we have our child, Julia Lucia, which is 18-month-old, she's coming with us and enjoying every single minute of these games.
That's awesome.
Which is, to us as parents, is like, oh man, she's really enjoying what we love. But yeah, it's the background has molded me to be the person I am and to always give back.
I can see that. And that's a little bit of foreshadowing for you guys too, because in terms of building communities, that's something that Gumaro certainly conejo is certainly
cheers on that one, bud.
certainly great at. So, so other than pro athlete, did you ever have any other thoughts, like professionally, what you thought you might do?
Yeah, I mean, owning my own business.
You always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Always wanted to be an entrepreneur. There's always a way to be an entrepreneur by, again, it's building your community.
Yeah.
You're employing people. You're it's the livelihood of the people that you're also supporting too.
Yeah.
And so always in my life wanted to build businesses. In college, I remember going to, I was a valet at Mr. Ace, Bertrand's at Mr. Ace in downtown.
In downtown San Diego, yeah.
One of the best spots to eat. I know it's changed ownership now, but when Bertrand was there, I was actually his valet, and it was a weekend job for me, but also was a bellman at the time of that job. But when I need to go to work and I see these big buildings, I always talk to myself, man, I wish I could own one of these buildings.
Sure.
I was like, man, this might be cool owning a business here to host businesses and do a lot of things to it. And so one of my aspirations was to own commercial property. And I shared that with my wife. My wife said, let's do this. Because remember, our migrant history was never to build, wealth, generational wealth, or none of that comes to a picture. That's bleak to a lot of migrant communities, or migrant families. So we took a different route. We waited to have our first kid. I'm 39. I'm going to have my first kid. Yeah. And I'm hoping to have another one, who knows? But, we took a different path and, going to school, enjoying life, traveling, just enjoying what this earth has to give. Yeah. And we always took that into our goals, our missions, or what we are expecting to do. It is a lot of hard work in all this. Sure. And so we decided to take ownership of a commercial property here in Vista too. Okay. So we ended up securing that property with the business, and which is now the Water Shack. Oh, okay. We're gonna get to that. And so we're gonna get to that. We have developed that, and but again, that was my aspirations to own, and see what that future holds,
Yeah, so you were dreaming big.
Dreaming big, with no resources, obviously.
Hi, I'm Rachel Beld, host of Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast. Join me as I sit down with Vista's movers, shakers, and changemakers. Let's move Vista forward with Velocity.
This podcast is brought to you by YourInsurancePlace.com. Owning a business is hard work. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into it every single day. You need a partner who understands the ins and outs of insuring small to medium-sized businesses. For over 40 years, our California Property and Casualty Insurance Agency has insured businesses just like yours. We've seen it all, and we've learned a thing or two about what it takes to keep your business protected. That's why we offer free policy assessments. We'll take a look at your policy and let you know if there are any gaps in your coverage. Let us help you to protect what you've worked so hard to build. YourInsurancePlace.com. What was education like? What was mentorship like back there in Greenfield? Like, how was the school system?
The school system was shitty, man. Okay. And I can say bad words here?
Sure.
All right. So sorry if I can't, but not to bash our school districts, and back home, but very similar to Vista, very, we didn't have great grades. We didn't have the teachers. The small amount of teachers that really mentored me and guided me left after I left too.
Really?
I still can't find one of the teachers. It's Mr. Pence. Basically that's how I know him, right? Yeah. He had, I was failing his chemistry class this first semester, where I ended up acing his class. Okay. And he says that he told me, I have never seen somebody like done so poorly and achieve what they had to do. Yeah. And I'm like, it had everything to do with you. To be the teacher. Everything's you. Yeah. Everything's about it was you. And, I left the high school to go to junior college in Hartnell College in Salinas. Mm-hmm. And I come back and visit the teachers that were good friends of mine at that point. And he asked me the question. He says, were you ready to go to college? I'm like, no. Yeah. Man, I wasn't ready to go to Hartnell College. Then I moved to San Diego to go to San Diego State in 2003.
That's a heck of a path. So did you do 2 years at
2 years at junior college?
In Salinas?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then moved to San Diego. I love the weather here.
What was the Salinas situation like? How did you feel there? Did you feel like, were you growing into university? Were you really feeling like, okay, after 2 years, then I'm really ready? What brought you to San Diego?
That's a good question, because my junior college felt like high school, right?
It
feels like high school, but just in another level.
That's interesting that you say that, because right now my daughter's just got admitted. We're going to University of San Francisco, and she came to me with that question. She's like, "Dad, do you think I'm ready for college?" And I'm like, that first year is gonna be like 13th grade. You know what I
mean? So, they're saying the average age to college now is 5 years, maybe gotten up a little bit of 6 years. I'm not sure what the last stats, but I remember when I was there, it takes 5 years to graduate from university.
I hope not, because it's $83,000 a year tuition.
Yeah, that's very true.
Sorry, we can't do that.
You should have took a junior college route first.
I know. Hey, I know.
I did participate. I can't say I played football. I did participate with the football team, and the experience there is building, again, that leadership, right? And I was the smallest guy. I was the smallest lineman there, you know, but I had a heart, and so that really helped, right? And so playing hard with them. But to be honest with you, just going out in the field with the guys that you grew up with, even because a couple of guys that I went to school with went there.
Okay.
And then meeting your competition, during that time, it was great, And then also, we had some players from Africa playing with us.
Okay.
So learning another culture was awesome. Had a great experience with those guys. Have lunch with them at the cafeteria, just chill. Great people, party with them at night. Awesome things to do, So that, again, it's that path of going to college for me was fun, because there was an activity behind that.
Okay.
And so to me, and let me share this story. I think this is a good story with my father, because my father wasn't like the greatest kind of role model for me, but he taught me so much,
Okay.
And one day when I learned what he was doing, is obviously selling illegal drugs, and he was
logistics,
but one day I asked him, I remember this, my freshman year in college, I'm like, "Dad, you have a lot of money." He says, and I told him, why don't you give me some money so I can put it in the bank, so when I want to go to college, I have this money.
Okay.
And he says, "You don't have to worry about that. The money will always be there."
Okay.
And I'm like, "No, it's not. I know what you're doing now. This is a really high risk job, So a year later, the empire he created just broke, and I got two brothers at that time, and my dad was on the run forever. My dad's been really lucky with the law, regardless of the issues that he did or not, right or rightful is not, or rightfully righteous, yes or not, but he, so I stopped talking to him for a few years, because I'm like, man, he let me down.
Yeah.
Right.
You felt like he wasn't taking care of family.
Just let me down, and I was like pretty hurt about that. And then I was thinking to myself, man, I'm doing him more damage than good, because he's on the run. He doesn't have anybody. And so I started talking to him, man. And the first thing he told me was like, "Hey, I'm so sorry about those $30,000."
Oh, he remembered
all that time.
Yeah.
And I think that was my first year in college that year when he told me that.
Wow.
I was like, "Thanks, Dad."
You were already in college, so you had gotten there. But you had to fight it on your own.
Yeah,
and he knew that he had
pretty much, man. I'm a water under the bridge, Dad. Still, that's not gonna stop me from doing what I want to do, right?
Yeah. What did you learn from that, though?
Man, again, it's.
You would certainly do that differently with your daughter.
Obviously. It's different, right? Because what I'm doing, it's the right way, right?
Sure.
The path that I took was to educate myself, learn. Streetwise, street smarts.
Yeah.
I have all that.
Sure.
When you add the theory behind education, I think you have the ability to achieve more because you're hungry. You're hungry. You're humble too, and all you want to do is just work hard to not break.
Okay, so. I got to dig into that one a little bit more, because you're giving some knowledge right now. I'm loving this. You're talking about the combination of street smarts and book smart, and actually that it is more valuable than just book smarts by itself or just street smarts by itself. When you combine the two, what happens?
you create a maturity level that understands both everything around it, the sophisticated level of business and the unsophisticated level of business. You understand both markets where can be come together into a shining star, because you know how to work the system, you know what you can get away with, and you know what you can provide. Having that knowledge on both sides, it's a win-win, because you're understanding that everybody has needs. Everybody, there's a market for everybody. You just have to find that niche to it. And that's the more important part of the side hustle, the street hustle, is that the street hustle is going to say how it is and be raw. Book smart, the theory behind it is this black and white.
Right.
When you mesh those two, man, it's like you opening a path or a bottle, like, wow, it's going to surprise you. Because again, the background that you can develop from it, the education that you're learning and how you're adapting to that, the street smarts is what allowing you to adapt. It's not the books, it's not the research, it's not that, it's what you experience hands-on.
Right.
And that's what I love about what I do, you know, because I have a little bit of everything. I deal with small business community that might not have the education or might have a different niche and may understand how they can move forward. But it's quite a great mesh with those two, because I feel like I have an upper hand with a lot of people that come from the education background, even with a master's degree. Yeah, great research, love what you did, but it's applied now to the real world, because the real world is different than school. I think the school prepares you for that. It prepared me, actually. San Diego State, even going to San Diego State, I wasn't prepared for San Diego State.
Yeah.
I failed the first year of San Diego State.
Is that right?
Yeah. I was like, wow, what am I doing wrong
Did
here?
you, okay, so did you go there with a specific focus? What were you going there to study?
So I was going in there for business administration.
Okay.
And the first year, I didn't. So one of the things that I didn't have was my prerequisites, right?
Okay.
So I took all the prerequisites my first year.
Okay.
I failed most of them because I was just lost. You know, it was a different school, bigger school.
You're out here by yourself too,
I was by
right?
myself.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to school at the time. I didn't work for the first 6 months, which I learned something about me too. I have to keep being busy. I don't perform if I'm not busy. It seems like I have that pressure. I mean, I don't know if this is inherited through my background here, but I have to have something pressuring me in order for me to be successful. And so I started working at the end of the year, and my grades went up a little bit. I was out the door at 7 in the morning, and I was coming back home at 1 in the morning.
What kind of work?
Well, at the time, I was a valet.
The valet,
I was a valet at all the hotels, actually. I wasn't working at Bertrand's at the time. I was on call, and I was picking up shifts. It was during the holidays, so everybody was partying. You know, all the corporations were partying, so I was the valet for them at La Jolla, downtown, you know, Del Mar, just a bunch of places that I was just picking up shifts.
Yeah.
Make $60, $80 in tips, you know, that money, cash money. I mean.
So with working more, your grades actually improved?
It did, 100%, man.
Wow.
I went from working full-time to going to school full-time, partying full-time, just everything. Everything that has a come, I just went for it, man. And you know, I ended up graduating with 3.7. My last semester was a 3.7 GPA, man. I was super surprised.
Cheers again.
Cheers, cheers. And I was surprised because I was a business administration major, but I went actually to a public administration major with a city planning emphasis. None of that was in my peripherals, man.
Right.
None of this was like, oh, man. And then on my senior year in college, I took an internship. And that's the internship here in Vista, here actually with the Vista Village Business Association then. I believe now it's Discover Downtown, you know, and I took this internship, not knowing what I was going into. I was just going for the grade, right? I need to go through this to graduate.
Sure.
Got to meet businesses here, a lot of business ownership, you know, built great rapport with them, you know, and.
So you were really busy. You were going to school, you were doing an internship, you were doing, and working.
So I was a bellman, a valet, working and internship and going to school full time. My last semester in college.
Yeah. I like where this is going. You know what I'm saying? And it still even goes back to what we were just saying about, you know, street smart, book smart, and combining the two. And then it even goes back even further to the beginning when we first started and we were talking about you being the errand guy, running around to the various businesses.
Right.
You are every man's man. everybody's man. You have the ability to talk to each and everybody that you're in front of.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you special.
Right.
And that's, what continues your growth. You know what I'm saying? I think that is a wonderful lesson right there.
You know what? You're absolutely right. One of my, colleagues or coworkers, told me a few years ago, he said, "You're a dangerous man. You're a dangerous man." He says, "Well, why do you say that?" He says, just a little bit of everything.
That's it.
That makes you so dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
He says, you can get by in any conversation you can. And that's really special on you.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's very gratifying to hear that, right? Because you're like, oh shit, I never think about stuff like that.
That's it.
I don't think about what am I doing to help an individual.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is really helping them. But it makes me kind of think about how crucial I am in this community,
That's
right?
it.
And how I can really be, and I'm learning how to be more be more of an open voice and talk to individuals.
Yeah.
And give them, my mind, because sometimes I can go off rant and might not say the right things, but again, that's what I'm feeling at the time. And it's rewarding because I feel that people do listen, and I try to do that for the youth a lot. With our employees, at the shack, I always tell them, this is not your forever job, and I don't want you to be here forever. I want you to do better and provide for your families.
Yeah.
Right? And so that is one of the things that I experience on a daily basis, that I can get by. I can get by.
I love it, man.
And I have that mentality that, I can always pivot.
Yeah.
COVID did teach people how to pivot.
That's a fact.
I already had that embedded in me.
That's it.
And, hustling for the right things was very important at the time. And so when we partnered with the city of Oceanside, we always looked out for the best interests of our members, of our businesses.
Let me get into that. I'm going to get into that in the reveal. I just want to share one story before, as we finish this segment and go into the reveal. It's very interesting, one of the things that you were just saying, because I was, I'm taking the kids to school in the morning. My son goes to Mary Costa College around the way, and you have these quiet times in the car sometimes. There's not much to talk about, whatever. He's really into coding, computers,
nice.
Loves it, man. And he's a master at it, but it's really kind of the main thing that he talks about. And, he's on his YouTube all the time. He's doing tutorials, he's whatever, but that's kind of his main subject. And so when we're having this quiet time in the car, just suddenly, and, playing a little music or whatever, but it's like, Dad, you want to talk?
Nice.
Like, yeah, I want to talk, let's talk about whatever. And so he goes into this little rant about, we talk about something, we talk about anything, we talk about nothing, whatever. And I said, then I just started getting into a conversation, just kind of, breaking some things down to him. And we got into some illogical conversation. And he said, Dad, you're really good at this. And I said, I know a little bit about it, a lot. I don't know everything. I might not be an expert on any one subject, but it's very important when you're in a room full of people to have the ability to speak to them all about something. Right. You know what I'm saying? To be able to have some sort of a conversation. And at the end of the day, we can call that networking. We can call that a lot of things. But if you can't at least participate in some part of a conversation, you might never learn about that person, and they may never learn anything about you.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's my intro into the reveal when we talk about Gumaro, a dangerous man. Owner of not just one, but two businesses right here in Vista, Embroidery Image and Water Shack. But not just that. He also used his degree in public administration to become the Chief Operations Officer of Main Street Oceanside and Chairman of the California Main Streets. So many organizations, so much responsibility. Some say that multiple incomes is the key to success. Today's guest may just be the proof. Visionary, born leader, ultimate multitasker, the very, very busy and gracious Gumaro Escarcega is joining us today. Awesome, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate doing this podcast with you, and first timer for me. So
This is great, man.
yeah, this has been definitely an experience that I'm enjoying actually. So it's just been good, to talk about.
I
what I done.
appreciate it, man. It's a long time coming for one, just because, I've crossed paths with you so long. And it's interesting too, because we were just talking about networking, but like, I'm just like, I see you at places, and then it's just like, I might remember later that night, just like, that was good. Oh, I could have had like 5 minutes, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I'm glad that we get to sit down and, do an hour together, man.
And one thing is, I'm always accessible, man. I'm a yes guy, right? It's hard for me to say no. It gets me in trouble though.
You with me.
It's hard to say no.
I have this same experience, man. It happened with me at the beginning of COVID, right? I saw a lot of fragility in people's businesses and their lives, right? And I was just like, fortunately, I've been in family business for many, many years, and I've always been a business-minded entrepreneur anyway. So I was going to be able to pivot. I was going to survive, but I had just made a conscious decision. I'm not saying no. I should have kept it to just that period of time. Somehow I still haven't said no. Here we are 3 years later.
Absolutely,
and I just like, boom, we're doing what? Okay, I guess we're doing it.
And I think it's part of our ambitions, right? Sometimes we get too ambitious of what we want to do. And, I find that not every great idea is a great idea, right? Or the opportunities might not arise at that time. But I think hearing people out, giving them the time, and explaining the process too with these individuals, really helps build that community that we have, right? It helps them engage, it helps them understand where we're coming from, it helps them what we can do, what are our limitations. I think it's important that we continue to offer that accessibility to individuals, regardless of what role you play.
Right.
I think, I do have a pretty significant high role in downtown Oceanside. I have a great rapport with our businesses down there. I'm a ear for them too, I'm just not a doer to help their business, but I'm also, a therapist, right?
Sure.
I'm listening to what their issues are.
Well, you're listening because you see the big picture.
I do.
Right. So even if they're talking about something that's finite or just pertaining to them, you're seeing how it could fit into everything that's going on.
Right.
And that's why they need you there. That's what makes it. But let me go back and start off before I get to the city of Oceanside. I want to talk about two businesses.
Yeah.
I mean, an owner of two businesses, I mean, that's a big deal, man. I mean, how are you finding the time for that? The embroidery image and Water Shack.
Right. So I have a great support too. My wife has been, she's the glue of my family, man. She's definitely my inspiration. She's my love. She's everything I do. That's what I do for. It's for my family, right? And it's definitely she's the one that runs the embroidery business. She's the one that keeps me on check. What's needed, she's the one running the operations. Again, building rapport, how these opportunities happen with the embroidery shop. I got a shout out to the previous owners, Ken Schumann and Brenda Schumann. They were really involved with the Downtown Association. Brenda was really involved with the Chamber of Commerce here. They wanted to retire. And so Ken and I always had this relationship when I left here in 2013 to go work in Oceanside. So I left the post here in Vista Village Business Association. And so every year we get together, we get along. I mean, we offer tickets to the baseball game, we will watch a game, etc. And one day he calls me and says, "Hey, Gumaro, let's have a beer. Let's go to the pub." I'm willing to go to the pub with you, Kent.
Yeah.
And so I met Kent at the pub that evening, and he told me, he says, "I'm gonna retire." And he says, "Good for you, Kent. I'm really happy for you, because retiring is the ultimate, especially how hard we work. It's the ultimate.
Yeah.
Enjoy your life. If you have the money, if you have the means, go travel, enjoy the world. Trust me.
Yeah.
Don't get too bored because you're gonna come back to work, But
that's funny. Yeah, that's true.
but stay busy." And so he says, "I'm done with this business." And so he told me what he wanted for the business, if I knew anybody. And I was like, and remember this, man, a week ago, my wife and I were talking. and my wife were talking about what our future is, just talking what do we want to do? You know, my wife was working at a occupational health care center here in Oceanside. She was helping managing 2 branches at the time. Shout out to Work Partners. Great people. They actually just sold the business to another company. She was like, look, man, I want to own my own business. And so I told her, and so she already had the mindset of an entrepreneurship opportunity.
Sure.
Right? And so she was like, let's see what we can do on a business. Am I right? So I got that in my head.
Yeah.
I left it in my head, and I was like, let's see what comes up.
Yeah.
Well, happens to me with Kent. He told me all about it, and I told him, what if I'm interested, Kent?
Yeah.
He says, if you're interested, I'll give you first dibs on this.
Yeah. He came to you first anyway.
Came to me first.
Yeah.
And I was like,
the Film Hub is the future of co-working in downtown Vista. Get energized in an inspiring work environment that is built for your success. With multiple membership options for workspace and private offices, you can become a part of our co-working community. The Film Hub makes it easier to produce the professional content your business needs. From video production, live streams, photo shoots, or in-person events, you can create all this and more in our audio and video facilities. Love your work and where you accomplish it. The Film Hub.
let me talk to my wife tonight, and I'll get a response tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gave me all the terms and everything. I went back home and talked to the wife, and I'm like, hey, look, I don't want you to answer right now. I want you to sleep on it. When you wake up, I want you to answer me.
Yeah.
Man, that girl was already awake when I woke up, man. I was like, what's going on here? Like, I was like, I looked at her kind of funny. She says, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all she said to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So I called Ken and says, hey, we're very interested. My wife just wants to do this to see what we can do. How much time do we have?
Yeah.
And he says, look, let's get back to me in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And see where you at,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, man, start staying active. We had some capital, we got a loan, we started doing all these things, and so I was able to get all the capital in 30 days.
Yeah.
And so we signed the contract, we bought it, and then we were like, wow, that was it.
That wasn't so hard.
And so we took over the business, the embroidery business, in 2017. And in September of 2017, we took over the business. In September 2016, we bought our first house, or our house here in Vista.
Mm-hmm.
And so September, November timeframe has been a great month for us, actually.
Wow.
We closed the Water Shack in November of last year. We had our first baby in November of 2021.
Okay.
So September, through September, November, it's always been a great time for us, the fall.
Yeah.
And so
two good things are going to happen at the same time.
Great things happen, And so, that's how we built the embroidery shop. And so far it's been active and running.
What's the, if you're just giving out some advice to the entrepreneurs, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything big or grandiose, but, some people say it's marketing, right? What's the key to staying in business? Some people say it's location, location. What has been key for you with having two businesses, obviously two businesses of different types, right? Different industries.
It is challenging right now. Our workforce is really challenging right now. It is. We're down an employee at the embroidery shop just to keep our doors actually being accessible 5 days a week.
Okay.
We have a child. My wife comes to work 3 to 4 days a week. She works from home the rest of the time, and then but we have a production that's there 5 days a week. But we need somebody that does the sales, the production to set it up with our production unit, and it's been challenging to find the right person to help us with that. Just because it's a lot of lifting, a lot of moving parts, and so it's either you want to be part of that or you don't.
Sure.
And so. It's
not just finding the person, it's finding the right person.
No, it's finding the right person, because we do need somebody with that common sense, with that, those skills that you need to develop at a young age. If you don't have that skill set, the organization skill too. Is you get lost and you get so frustrated that stress is going to be very high.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to do that to the employee. We want to find the right person to do and help us grow the business.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now, actually. We're trying to find that individual to help us out and continue to grow the sales. And so it's been good. I mean, we haven't lost revenue on this. We haven't lost, we have never put money into this business.
Wow.
Since we purchased it. And again, this is thanks to Ken and Brenda. Ken and Brenda had a really good business operation.
It was already set up.
It was set up. You know, we have brought in new businesses that has supported us too throughout the years, in the last 5 years. So, but it's been very healthy, but there's a lot of room for growth. And that's where I feel that capital is a good thing, but it's also how do you manage that capital? Accounting, it has to be really, you need to understand accounting to make sure that you can work to your benefit. You have high months, you have low months. It's how do you know, your staffing, how do you pay the staffing and how many hours you're giving them. So having that right attitude to the income versus expenses is you must have to know. The Water Shack, we actually took over, like I said, in November. We kept everything intact. And so we were able to purchase the building with the business there. And it's full circle because the agent that sold me the property was in my board of directors when I was an intern at Vista Village Business Association. Okay. And then the broker was also part of the business. So it was like this repetitive business just keeps going on with me. And so, you know, we hired the staff that was intact. We never changed anything. We kept things intact. Now we're coming in with a different analysis, with a different attitude. Now that we know the business, we know what the hiccups can be, how we can manage those hiccups. But it's just analyzing your business. Always make sure you analyze, take it home, you know, or don't take it home, but make sure you give it time to analyze where you're at and where you're going. And I think that will keep you continue to make changes as needed and in the future. But no, it's been a blessing to own a property here in Oceans and Vista. It's been a blessing to own two businesses and Vista too. You know, it's best of both worlds, right? Because you know the water store with the food restaurant component, then I have a marketing promotional business, you know, kind of goes together. And so it's been exciting to see the growth of these two businesses and hoping that they last forever. You know, that's your goal, is to keep it going.
Well, you're staple investors. That's amazing, man. Yeah. Congratulations on that, man. And shout out to the business partner, Fabiola.
Yeah. Shout out to my wife.
That's right. Okay, so you took on this position in Oceanside. Like, what made you do that? I mean, you're obviously, like I said, a staple in Vista. And then this thing, how does this come about?
So, you know, when I was in Vista, I was going through some turmoil. You know, we were battling with the city for the funding. Okay. You know, the city was pretty much, it was an ongoing conversation with the city myself. They were like, for me, it was an experience because I have never been through this. I was in my mid-20s at the time. Going through what the animosity that was happening during that time, I think developed me to where I'm at.
Okay.
You know, Kevin Ham was the director at the time at the economic development, as a director of the economic development. He has really mentored me and showed me what it takes. You know, you have to have a hard, thick skin here, man. Yeah. And you have to deliver and you have to produce.
But that's in any city, right? Or
in
is
any
that just,
city. This is anywhere. This is actually inevitable to you. If you want success, you have to learn how to balance the negative and the positives. And so then during the time in Vista, when Vista Village was going through a turmoil, I was actually a contractor for Vista Townside Community Partnership, was also going through a huge transition over there. And the redevelopment department was funding before I was there, they were funding this organization that wasn't producing much. You know, I mean, no, I don't want to discredit the organization, but there was no sustainability background behind it. I learned to be sustainable. I learned how you can leverage the incomes that you're receiving and grow and grow the organization's budget by producing more.
And you learned this in school?
No, I learned it through the association.
Experience.
I was through the experience of Vista Village Business Association.
Okay.
So I learned not just always ask for hand-me-downs. So I learned the process and I was analyzing what was happening. And so my job was to report to the city that the system that you have in place isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
We need to change it.
Yeah.
And so I was able to change all that. And I built, again, with the collaboration with our city council, our department heads in the city, and our small business community has taught me to really put together a right kind of package to continue to operate and produce more for our businesses. And so during that process, Oceanside, Rick Wright, which is the CEO of Main Street Oceanside,
Mm-hmm.
Reached out to me and says, I need you to come work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, what do you mean? So yeah, I need you to come work for me. And I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like? And he says, I don't know. And I need your help with that.
Yeah.
And so that's what started our relationship.
He saw something in you.
Oceanside. And so again, building the business community, the difference between Vista and Oceanside, Vista was really business to business. We worked heavily with our small business community, our committees, our board, all driven to small business community. I saw a huge opportunity in Oceanside, and I was like, why are residents involved in here? Because they're very involved. So that's just the way it is. So I actually, what I did, I brought the Main Street program, leveraging the business community and the diverse group of business ownership, not just in the downtown, but in the region that wants to see a change in Oceanside, that have some kind of connection with Oceanside. And that's what I did actually, is work with a group of small businesses first that included residents that wanted to do something.
Mm-hmm.
With me coming to Oceanside, my goal was to activate the Main Street program in July of that 2013.
Yeah.
Businesses were knocking on my door. When are we starting this?
Wow.
And actually, my friend Kim Elwood from That Boy Good was the first one that calls me. When are we doing these meetings?
Mm.
And I was like, you can put it together and I'll get back to you in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, I recruited members to be in the design, promotion, and economic development committee and the organization committee at the time. And so we got teams building, and then from that, we created an ambassador program. We created Taste of Oceanside. We created Mother's Day to Sweet. We had mixers at the time just to create the community to meet and know each other.
Yeah.
Because one of the analysis that I did, when I walked every single business, introduced myself. I'm your liaison. Anything happening here, you come to me.
Yeah.
And what do you need now?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because before I came in and talked to them, they're like, "Oh, I don't need anything. I'm not selling you anything, though." Says, "If you want, I can sell you. I have things to sell you, but that's not what I'm here for.
Right.
I'm here I want to meet you. I want to introduce myself to you and what I'm doing here. So if you're interested in getting involved, come see me." And so 2013 was the year that we launched this. 2014 and 2015 was the developments of all these programs that we started. And it's been very rewarding to see the growth of Main Street Oceanside and where we're at. And again, we couldn't have done this without the collaboration of the city of Oceanside with the business community and the resident community. We have really taken Main Street Oceanside to a level where we are the destination for services, businesses, organizations. They leverage our resources to grow and be part of our community. So there's the balance, and we were kind of talking to this a little bit earlier before we started, is pleasing the locals while also pleasing the businesses. I mean, that's got to be difficult to kind of marry the two, because the locals are there. The locals have been there for many years. They have a memory of a certain type of Oceanside. Right.
And then the businesses, they're also there. And to me, it still has that home feel. I love the businesses in Oceanside. I love the food culture over there. Yeah. Don't get me started on the food culture in Oceanside. It's killing them. But the marrying the two, and you being, the liaison,
right.
You being that ambassador, or the person in the middle, how difficult is that, and what's your mission when it comes to that?
It's extremely difficult to get, different minds into a table.
Yeah.
It's they feel that this is their town. It's that pride behind them. Don't change things. And rightly so. I mean, it's not that we're changing things. It's just that we're just growing.
Yeah, exactly.
And being progressive about it.
Progressive,
and that is attracting these elements. This is attracting that corporation. It's attracting the high investors because we're building a community that has strong roots. And I like to say that because there are born and raised folks that are owners of businesses. There are people that have been here, grew up here, that have left and come back and done work. There's so much a diversity of our town that we like the conduit. That's how I like to look at it. Main Street Ocean is like the conduit. It's not like we're supporting all these projects. It's not like developers are coming to us and giving us money. No, that's not happening. We are here to track the progressiveness of the city and be a partner to those that are investing in our town, making the right choices, adding elements that locals can really appreciate, and investing back into your community. We thrive for that. We want our communities to look at that in a sense that Oceanside is moving so fast that it's hard to keep up with it.
Yeah.
From a local perspective, from a professional perspective, it's like there's always something new happening in Oceanside. But we can't say it's all corporate driven.
Right.
We can't say that the corporate market is overrunning the city because I don't see that. I believe that corporate can coexist with a small business community because those are anchors. People are familiar with that. Our tourists are familiar with our big brands, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Our locals are familiar with it too, but they like to see the small business community. And honestly, that is the best way to look at downtown Oceanside. It's through the small business community, because that is the diversity that you want. But then again, it's like we need to open these platforms for the younger generation.
We're here to interrupt your regular podcast listening and ask you to join us at Odd Pairing Podcast.
Yes, it's Paige and I, and we are here every week now on Fridays. And we talk about adult beverages in the community, a little bit of the history of it, and we're just going on a nice little journey. And you can hear other people's drinking stories. So why wouldn't you want to listen?
That's the best part.
That is the best part.
Cheers.
Hello friends, I'm Joe Samo. I'm an attorney in San Diego, and I'm the host of Run It By My Lawyer. It's a great podcast where you will learn a lot about the law, and it is very entertaining if I say so myself. And you can get it for free anywhere you get your podcasts, and you can follow us on Instagram at Run It By My Lawyer.
And so that is something that we're doing to work with Maricosta College, for example, to create entrepreneurship programs, to develop things that products, or you just never know what another big hit can really grow in our city, You got the Brixtons, for example. You got some surfing, surf board shapers here. But then again, you have the lowrider scene. You have that culture that you're just like, wow. And you just, if you dive into what Oceanside is, you get to appreciate the surroundings of it. And I think that's what investors are doing now. They're looking at what we have and then the elements above and beyond that. So it's definitely a challenge.
It's a challenge.
Because another challenge that we have is that locals that are being vocal are not engaged. And what Main Street Oceanside brings to them is to be part of that, be part of the solution. Come be part of a community. You don't have to own a business in downtown. You don't have to, have some type of stake there. We're open to the community. Main Street programs throughout the state, throughout the nation, there's over close to 2,000 Main Street programs, are driven by the assets that you have. And so why not bring all those assets together and develop what the community wants? And that's the way to do it.
How many Main Street programs?
There's close to 2,000 Main Street programs.
Wow.
Yeah, there's 30, I believe, 30 Main Street programs in California. And the programs that are here in San Diego are Coronado, North Park, Del Mar, Encinitas, Cardiff, Leucadia, Carlsbad they're members of ours.
Yeah.
Vista used to be a Main Street program. Escondido used to be a Main Street. El Cajon. So Main Street is really tagged here in this region. And again, we bring a different element in the business, in the Chamber of Commerce.
Sure.
Chamber of Commerce.
I was going to ask you about that, like the differences.
Yeah, we're district driven. We're a business to consumers. We want our consumers to see where our businesses have to offer. We have unique experiential retail now. We have unique products that are being sold in our district, and the eats. We're creating a culture of the food scene.
Yes.
But again, also we need more nightlife. We need to also support a nightlife consumer market.
That doesn't scare you from a liability standpoint?
Not necessarily. I'm
asking as an insurance broker. I get it. But...
Yeah, it depends too of the operator. It all comes to management and operations. We have some bad apples in our city, in the Oceanside, but again, it's management. I leave it to management.
One of the things that comes across my mind is, I got to give a shout out to Christy Hawthorne, Oceanside Historical Society. But one of the times, I sat down with her, and she opens every time I talk to her, she opens my mind to like a perspective of something I had never considered, right? But for those of you guys that aren't familiar with Oceanside, if you're driving south down to 5, let's say from LA or from wherever you're coming from, you got Camp Pendleton here, and you got Oceanside, right? Camp Pendleton's in Oceanside, but that's the first big city that you're hitting, and that's where people might want to get out to go to the restroom. They want to go grab something to eat, whatever. They've been on the freeway a long time. The lights have been dark on the highway. I've driven on that, man, and it's you just like, I need some reprieve. She called it the gateway to San Diego County. And I never really thought of it in that way. And I've driven that highway thousands of times, right? But it's like that first little oasis right after you get, and the work that you're doing. Like I'm saying, you can get such great food there. I'm not just here trying to just do an advertisement for Oceanside. I'm just saying the work that you're doing there is so important, because why shouldn't it be special once you've gotten past that border and gotten into the city? Right. I think the locals and the businesses alike should understand how important Oceanside is to all of this county. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Huge. San Diego County being it's the third largest county in the country. I believe it still is. Yeah. But to be that gateway, come on, man. Oceanside is a big deal.
Yeah, and it has flavor.
That's it.
It has different character, and it's a unique place. It is a small town feel still though. It really is a small town feel.
That's what I'm saying. That balance.
180,000 people live in that city, and having the feel and the vibe behind this is such a spectacular place. We have beaches, we have a pier, we have a harbor. We have South Oceanside. The downtown is basically where everything blossoms, right? Because we're the destination. We have resorts. We have a transit center in the middle of it.
Yes.
That brings people from south, north, and east. We're really I keep telling people, what does the future hold for Oceanside? We're really in a good position to flourish and continue to grow. But however, it's also vulnerable, right? Because our community might not want that. But it's inevitable, right? Because we feel that Oceanside is, whatever we're doing for the city, we feel like what's coming is supporting the future of Oceanside too, right? Through property taxes, sales taxes, any other means that supports that. But, we continue to thrive because Main Street Oceanside wants to be the conduit for everything that's happening in downtown through our businesses, through the community. Anything that we're building, anything that we have new, we want the people to respond and really be part of it, and ultimately we continue to show sign that Oceanside is really adapting really well with it. So, and we're working on a branding study now too, so hopefully, we develop a nice identity for Oceanside that people can relate to and our business market can relate to, that can start marketing themselves to promote where they're at and how people can get to them.
Yeah.
So, we're looking at adapting new wayfinding signs. We're looking to maybe some monument signs, some gateway signage, things that will help grow our identity and what are we all about. So, and that's open right now. We're definitely, the public has spoke. Over 21 surveys were submitted. And so the public was, from all backgrounds. But it's definitely something that we will continue to thrive and challenge our community to start thinking outside the box.
That's it. That's it.
Because we want them to be part of this. We don't want them to get excluded. And I think every community wants,
Yeah.
It's my job is to work with the locals. We have a tourism organization that works with tourism. My job is locals.
Yeah, I heard that.
I want to embed, I want to penetrate our local market so they can see Oceanside through Main Street Oceanside and see what we're working on. So that's the beauty about working in Oceanside. And another thing too, it's always different every day. This job is not, it doesn't stale, or the position that I'm at has created so many opportunities for me because there's always an idea. There's always somebody always thinking outside the box. And once you get the passion behind it, it's game over, man. We're doing it, and that's what's cool about Oceanside. It's such a passionate town, and people that are voicing their opinions and everything. I love that. It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. Honestly, you're voicing your opinion. Please do so. We're listening. You might feel like you're neglected, but in reality, we are listening.
That's it, man. And that's what you want as a leader. I love it, man. I love it. Why don't you give us some contact information on how they can reach you and all of your multiple ventures?
Yeah, so, you can always contact me if you're interested in, opening a business in Oceanside or working with us through mainstreetoceanside.com. You can also send me an email at gumaro@mainstreetoceanside.com. My cell phone, 619-519-2027. It's my cell phone number. I can be called anytime. And again, through the embroidery business, just go to embroideryimage.com. Or if you want to visit the Water Shack, go to watershack.net. And those are access to my two businesses. But depending on the day, you can catch me anywhere.
That's it, man.
Depending on the day.
I've seen you out and about. I've seen you. He's around. He's around. Trust me. He might be a little busy. He might be in a meeting, but at least, go up, pat him on the shoulder and tell him, you appreciate what he's doing. Yeah. I appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
This is a great conversation, man. I appreciate your honesty and telling us your whole story, because I know it can help some folks,
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me here, man. I look forward to listening to this and see how I sound.
Don't be hard on yourself, man.
Cheers,
it was awesome. Cheers.
Thanks, man.
So to all you guys out there, please like and subscribe. The Same Business, Different Day podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. Shout out to my team. Mateo over there on the boards. King of the boards over there, and then Jeff, Nash, Carlos. Shout out to Greg Mears, moved on to bigger and better things. We want you to know that hopefully you keep watching us, and we know that you help with the foundation of what we've got going on here. So all the other shows on A Different Day Radio, you guys check us out at A Different Day Radio, and that goes for all of them. Don't let me start listing them. I don't want to miss anything. But we love you guys. We appreciate all of our listeners. Once again, thank you to Gumaro for being here today, and we'll see you again soon. Peace. Wonderful, man.
That was good?
Yeah.
I hope so, man.
Mateo, what you think?